Hello everyone and welcome to your NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday the 20th of November 2023. It's Gary here again, and you know what, I don't know about you, but I really miss Rangers. Yeah, I said it, and that's how I feel, and I'm pretty sure most of you will feel the same way. But thankfully we are nearing the end of this. It seems like a very long international break, this one, and I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's us until around about March, the Marchish time frame or thereabouts. So we have a bit of a clear run from here until the winter break, till the end of the year, and or the winter break being, just after the new year kicks in there, thankfully. And I have to admit that it is nice to be able to get a break now and again. And it wasn't so long ago that the international breaks provided, what really turned out to be some much needed or much welcome relief from having to endure the dross that the previous management regime managed to serve up on the pitch for us. But I think I mentioned this just prior to the international break this time, that it felt for me anyway that it came at the wrong time. It just came at a time when I was just loving the games that we were playing. Now, I'm not getting all blue tinted glasses here. They weren't all pretty, and they didn't all go absolutely the way we were hoping, albeit the results did for the most part. But the results and effort and endeavour from the team was exactly what the doctor had ordered after, as I say, we endured quite something different before that. And who knows, maybe in the fullness of time, Rangers leadership, as in the board of Rangers Football Club, will be commended for making the change when they did, as the season might just turn out to be salvageable for us in terms of really challenging for the league. Of course, that's the main thing and the bread and butter, and certainly getting our hands on some silverware as well, and having an extended run in Europe. None of that seemed to be quite so possible under the previous regime there. So I guess time is going to tell on that front, of course, but we couldn't have asked for a better start for our new management team, and long may that continue. And we're going to know quite a lot about this squad and this team come this weekend's game, and I guess we'll find out where we're at on that front when we get to that, and we'll talk about that just in a wee bit here. In terms of what we can expect today on the pod, I've got quite a bit of communication stuff to share today, and also got some very sad news to share as well. So it's, I was hoping that the pods were going to be a wee bit more upbeat, but we don't get to choose that, unfortunately, and I'll get to that once we get to the shout outs part here. So on the game segment, of course, no games for the men's team this past week, but the women's team you might have paid attention to on the weekend. They had a very, very important tie against Glasgow City, which they managed to win 2-0 thanks to, I think it was a very late goal in the first half, and a goal in stoppage time as well. So 2-0 doesn't give you an absolute reflection on how possibly easy this might have sounded in terms of their ability to get the result. But what that does is that puts them, they remain 1 point ahead of Celtic in the Women's League, and 11 points now over Glasgow City. So that effectively puts Glasgow City right out of the running there. It's just going to be between Rangers and Celtic now to see who's going to win that championship this season. So that was great news, and I have to admit I was keeping a bit of a keen eye on that, not so much on the other games, because the other games seem to be a wee bit of a cakewalk for the team. Not that any games are easy, but the scorelines would reflect differently. But it's really good to see against one of the big three, or the other big two, I guess you should say, is a good result. And they're just churning it out, unbeaten for the season. They've only dropped 2 points, and that was to Glasgow City before. So well done to them, and long may that continue. As I say, just the one game this week, which is actually going to be the first of 11 between now and the end of the year, and that's about 11 games in 34 days or something like that. I think that's what the number was accounted yesterday. Or, as I mentioned briefly in the intro there, we do have one game that spills over into, I think it's the 2nd of January, something like that. So we've got 12 games in 37 days. So that's that's a fair chunk of games. That's like almost a game every 3 days or so. So the games are going to come thick and fast, and we're going to have to put our seatbelts on and see what it provides for us. It'd be kind of cool if it was 12 victories, wouldn't it? But I don't know how realistic that is right now with the squad that we have, but you never know based on what Philippe has done for us thus far. So yeah, this weekend of course we are going to Pataudry on Sunday morning over here in North America, and that's a 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff. That's noon UK. You'll remember that our last game against them was at Ibrox, and it was a 3-1 defeat at the end, which literally signalled the end of Michael Beale's reign as Rangers manager. And the usual, the same old Aberdeen. It's almost cliche now, isn't it? Aberdeen put in a great performance against Rangers, and they just don't show up, and they just don't seem to care about showing up against that mob from the East End. And you'll remember that they got spanked 6-0. I mentioned that just in terms of the goal difference implications of that. So let's just do the same to them again on Sunday and just get the 3 points, and that'll be a bit of a taster for what's to come 3 weeks after that in the cup final as well. I enjoy the games against Aberdeen. It does get a wee bit annoying when they're so up for that and they're not up for any other games, but that's just the way that it is, and I'd much rather a team tried against us than not. So let's go and get the points that we need to get to. For RTV, we are still in the process of trying to pay RTV. I mentioned this last week, I hope I did. The first payment, the first increment payment for the season, but we didn't get the invoice when we were hoping to get the invoice. The process is that we request the invoice for a certain amount, we tell them what that amount is going to cover, they raise an invoice, we go to the bank, we do a wire transfer. It's all very convoluted in this day and age of online banking and stuff, but that's what we have to do. But so we're hoping to get that invoice in the next day or so, and then we'll get the folks over to get that paid as quickly as we can. And we also have set up a chat between David Melvin from RTV and Alan McWatt and myself for a week on Wednesday. That's the 29th of November, just to basically catch up on what the plans are for the remainder of the season, how things are going, a bit of a status check in there. So it's always good to chat to David, so we'll get that conversation going. In terms of the shout outs, I'll start with some of the kind of relatively happier stuff, and then we'll get to the most important part of this week's pod. And the first one is that I'd like to wish a very belated happy birthday to my good friend here in Calgary, Hammy. That's Graham Hamilton. He celebrated his birthday a week past on Sunday. So that's, remember I said before, 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after is the grace period that I give myself for birthdays. I'm invoking that rule right now because I just completely forgot to mention it last week. I do apologise about that, Hammy, and hopefully that doesn't affect in any way my square sausage that you are surely making for me right now, because I told you ages ago that I've ran out of the previous batch. But belated happy birthday, Hammy, and I look forward to catching up with you very soon, my friend. And on the topic of birthdays, it's also Heart and Hand's very own David Edgar, Heart and Hand's very own David Edgar, his birthday today as well, and he is also I think he's actually travelling back right now. Right now it's 12:36 p.m. on Monday, and David and a couple of the guys I think from Heart and Hand are travelling back from Hong Kong. They were out there by invite celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Hong Kong Rangers Supporters Club there as well. So I think there was representation from investors at the club, Julian Woldhart and I'm taking a blank on the other fellow's name right now. I had his name as I was starting to talk about this. Anyway, my apologies. And of course Richard Gough was there, and he was given a kind of honorary membership when he was there as well. I kept in touch with David over the weekend, and he was having an absolute ball and loved it over there as well. So that's great to see. So it looks like they had a great event. And also, you might have seen on social media, the Dubai Loyal Rangers Supporters Club had 5 Legends in one weekend event there as well, and they had some cracking guests there. They had Dale Gordon, Derek Johnson, Colin Steen, Nigel Spackman and Mark Walters over there as well, and you've probably seen some of the photographs. The boys and girls in Dubai do such a great job over there as well, so it was great to chat to the president over there, Colin McCabe, and have a good blether on the weekend, and they were thoroughly enjoying it. And great to see Derek Johnson there as well. We were trying to get Derek over to Toronto for this year's convention, and he just couldn't make it along, so it was good to see that he'd managed to make it over to Dubai there as well. So some real activity on the Worldwide Rangers front as well, which is kind of cool. And just on that, do you know what? I'll maybe just wait for the convention update to give you the next part of this. But in a little bit more, a little bit, in a lot more of a somber note, last week I had put out best wishes to Nicky Lyall and his friends and family for. He was in hospital, he wasn't doing so great, and what we had was Dave Shillinglaw from the London Rangers Supporters Club had set up a WhatsApp group called Nicky's Friends, and there was the last I checked was there was over 50 people on that, and Davey was basically just giving us updates. He was up there. Unfortunately, Nicky was in a COVID ward, so that was just due to a lack of beds. I don't think it was anything to do with him actually having COVID, and so that then meant it was very restricted in terms of who could get in to visit him and make sure that he was getting what he needed. And Dave, I don't know how he actually managed to do it, but he managed to get in pretty much every day and was just keeping us up to date on what the nurses were saying, how Nicky was doing, and giving us an opportunity to pass on our best wishes to Nicky as well. But I am very, very sorry to tell you that unfortunately Nicky passed away this past Friday. That was November the 17th. Sometimes when you kind of feel like it's coming, you don't know for sure because very few of us are medical professionals, but you feel like it's coming, and then when the news actually comes, it feels awful. It feels absolutely horrible. I was actually on the treadmill in my house here when I seen the message come in, and that wasn't the news I was looking to hear on Friday morning, and I'm certain that's the same for all of Nicky's friends across the globe. So I asked Dave to put together a wee bit of information about Nicky, just to let everybody know how well thought of he was. So I'm just going to read this out if you don't mind here. So this is on behalf of Dave Shillinglaw. Sadly, we lost one of our own. Alexander Lyall, Big Nicky as he was affectionately known, passed away peacefully Friday morning. The big man was a huge part of our wee London, Ontario Supporters Club and a permanent fixture at the annual conventions. Nicky, a proud Glaswegian, left Garrow Hill near Baillieston and came to Canada in the mid-60s when a massive influx of Scottish tradesmen left as the shipbuilding industry had its dark days. He settled in London and was one of the first in the door at the Talbotville Ford car plant, making Crown Victorias the cop car of choice for many years. Tom Plunkett's vision in the early 90s to form an association for North American Rangers fans to meet and greet was taking off, and Big Nicky was there from the beginning. Our close proximity to Mount Clemens, Michigan, where Tommy hatched his dream, meant our London club, and especially Big Nicky, formed a special bond with the founder from the beginning. As you go through each of the clubs, you instantly think of one or two people that you have met. I'll bet anyone who thinks of London Rangers Supporters Club, their first image has to be of the big man. To say he loved his conventions would be a massive understatement. Each club typically gets assigned a table, but Nicky rarely sat at the London table. He made lifelong friends easily and was a social butterfly for the duration of the event. Sadly, Nicky has no next of kin, but I feel we, all of you, NARSA and the Glasgow Rangers, were his family. Nicky epitomised what Tommy Plunkett's vision was for the association, and every convention from this day forward will be missing one of its most instantly recognisable meter and greeters. Rest in peace, big pal. You will be missed, of that there is no doubt. And that was on behalf of, as I said, Dave Shillinglaw. Such a terrible loss, and Dave is absolutely right. If you've been to any conventions at any point, you will know Nicky. He was just the life and soul of the party. He didn't drink, hadn't drank for, it must be coming up for about 20 years, something like that, and still was just in and about it the whole time. There was the various posts on Facebook. NARSA put one out on the weekend as well there, and the amount of just well wishes and amazing stories and heartfelt condolences from across the entire globe was just so comforting to see, and hopefully that helps his nearest and dearest, and his friends and such. He was a great guy. I mean, as I mentioned last week, I had a great conversation with him in the wee blue room back in Toronto. He was just Nicky, and the one thing about Nicky was he was always so well put together. Like he was always just immaculate the whole time. And the last time I actually recall, or maybe it wasn't the last time I recall seeing him in Toronto, but one of the things I do remember in Toronto was one of the days, I think it was either Thursday or Friday, probably Friday. I ended up going down to the gym in the hotel just to go for a quick run on the treadmill. So I ended up picking a treadmill that was looking out onto the pool, and I could see Nicky sitting there on one of the sun loungers. He's in his jeans. He's immaculate with his Rangers polo shirt and stuff. So I had half an hour to kill on the treadmill. So I'm just doing that. And then Claire Dougal came across, and Claire Dougal is also a regular convention attendee, and her and Nicky were very, very close. You might have seen a post on the weekend where she was saying he was like a second dad, and the two of them had a blether. So for 20 odd minutes, or so, by the time Claire arrived, I'm running away there and thinking, who wears jeans and so is so immaculately put together at the pool? And then I wonder what they're talking about, and I didn't even go out and say hello after that. I had to run back upstairs for a quick shower and get back down to the organising and stuff like that. But it was just one of those things, one of those events. I'll never forget it, and it's so nondescript. It's just an experience that I had, but it just kind of epitomised him. He was just immaculate all day, every day. One of the last to leave each of the nights as well, and as Dave says, a social butterfly, just doing his thing around the events and stuff like that. One of the real genuine great and great guys from the Rangers family perspective. He always had time for everyone, always had time for a blether, and to be dead fair, he wasn't backward and coming forward about giving me some very direct pointed advice or guidance or opinion if something wasn't to his liking, but equally so was very lavish in his praise as well when things were going right as well. And we don't have a lot of that in our Rangers community, to be dead honest. It's certainly not in my experience anyway. Just candid fun, very, very funny. So I'm so sorry to hear this, and it's a massive loss for everyone at London Rangers Supporters Club and NARSA at large. So on behalf of NARSA, I think the best and only thing I can say is sincere condolences to everyone who knew and loved Nicky, and yeah, we're gonna feel this at the next convention when he's not there. That's going to be something we're going to have to navigate there come the summer of 2025. Such sad news. In terms of other shout outs, I did mention last week Alan Frew is having a do on the 17th of February 2024 at the Opera House in Toronto, and for some reason I must have mumbled or in some way mispronounced my words, because my sister Debbie for some reason thought that meant I was taking her to see Alan Frew in Toronto on the 17th of February just because I happened to mention that was her birthday. So I just want to be super clear from a shout out perspective. I never said that. I never meant that. That's not happening. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, Debbie did also remind me of another wee thing where I'm actually supposed to be going to see Alan Frew in Calgary here next week, a week on Thursday on the 30th of November, and she reminded me of that. She also reminded me of the fact I haven't paid her for the tickets yet, which is another thing to get done, but I'll get a chance to see him. I don't know if I'll get a chance to meet up with him or not. I know he's usually quite rigid about his schedule when he's performing, but I'll certainly reach out to him, and if I can get a chance to see him, that would be great. If not, that's okay as well. But yeah, no trip for Debbie. You're more than welcome to go with my best wishes to Toronto on your birthday next year anyway, if you like. On to the convention update. Nothing hugely material on the convention update, other than we do have a meeting organised with Rangers for next week, the 29th of November, so that's Wednesday, and we've got a meeting just with the internal Rangers team, so that's going to be with Greg McCallum and Natalie Nairn, just to go through the two proposals that we have that are very high level for right now. So that gives me a wee bit of time between now and then to just basically put them in a spreadsheet, do some comparative analysis, and then come with our opinions formulated a wee bit more, and then we'll see what happens from there. I'm assuming after that we'll go to contract proposals, and then we'll be in a position after that to be able to say whether we have enough information to be able to make a decision or not. But the ideal scenario for sure is that we would be in a position to make at least an informed choice this side of the new year, and hopefully sign a contract very early in the new year to get things going and get people planning for what's coming in Kissimmee in 2025, all being well. Another wee update on the convention, and it's not a NARSA convention on this occasion, and this is why I was kind of wondering whether I would talk about it a little bit earlier in today's podcast or not, was I ended up chatting with Billy Brownlee from ORSA, who's also a member of the Sunshine Coast Rangers Supporters Club in Queensland, Australia, and they're hosting for the first time the ORSA convention from the 29th of March to the 29th of February to the 3rd of March next year. And what I'll do is I'll put a link to both the website and then also a fundraiser, and that's why I wanted to talk about it today. It was great to chat to Billy on Friday night as I was just driving over to my love's house, and we had a good blether. First time I've had a chance to have a proper blether with him, and great guy, and we're looking forward to having more collaborations as we go forward to learn lessons from each other as we continue our convention journeys. But what he also talked about was they had just launched at the time an amazing raffle prize that they've got that they're hoping that's going to help them raise some funds that are going to go towards the organising of these events and stuff. And this is in conjunction with 5 Stars, and the actual prize itself is 2 tickets for the corporate hospitality and the Cooper Suite for the first home Old Firm game of next season 24-25, and it also includes 2 flights to Glasgow, assuming that you live in the ORSA region, 2 economy flights that is, and then 1 week's accommodation in Glasgow as well. So you've got 2 corporate hospitality tickets for the Cooper Suite for the first home Old Firm game, 2 flights to Glasgow, and 1 week's accommodation in Glasgow as well. That's an incredible prize, isn't it? And if you happen to live in Glasgow and you win it, you'll get the monetary equivalent of the flights as well. And you can, I didn't say much on I don't think it said anything about that on the hotel part, but certainly on the flight part, you'll be able to get the monetary equivalent of that as well. So that shouldn't put you off from hopefully getting that. The tickets are 25 Australian dollars each, which comes to be just about £13, Great British pounds that is, and I'll just do it in pounds. I won't do it in Canadian or American dollars. You can do the translation on that yourself. So 1 for $25, that's £13. 3 for $50, roughly about £26, and 10 for 100 Australian dollars, and that's roughly about £52-53 as well. So I'll put the link on for that as well, and you'll get a chance to see that. Go check it out. Check out the website if you're interested in going to the convention. They've got a lot of things locked in right now, and they've got a really good itinerary going there as well, and Billy's very organised on that front as well. So great to chat to him, and thank you for listening, Billy, as you do, and hopefully this will help with the fundraising as we go forward. I'll keep mentioning that each week as we move forward as well. The draw for the raffle is going to take place at their grand banquet, which will be on the 3rd of March as well, so that you'll know if you actually attend there, you'll know real time whether you won or not. If you're not attending but you're supporting from afar, you'll be able to hopefully get a hold of someone there and find out whether you won or not. So a great prize there, absolutely fantastic prize, amazing. So yeah, that's all we have on the convention front. On the communications front for this week, the Gers guide for today, we have the away days segment for the Rangers women's team, and that's away of course at Glasgow City for the game yesterday. There's also the loan review is today. Last week it was Tuesday, but this week it's on Monday as well, if you want to see what everyone is up to from a loan perspective. Nothing significant listed for tomorrow. Wednesday there's going to be a men's international review, there's going to be an academy international review, and then I don't know if this is a repeat of last week or not, but they've got a segment on Wednesday with the Brogan Hay and Nicola Docherty 100 appearances part, and they had that in for last week as well. So I don't actually know if it happened last week or not. Anyway, on Thursday, nothing significant on Thursday. Friday is the press conference, of course, for the Aberdeen game on the weekend. And then Saturday, not so much going on the website. And then Sunday, of course, we have the game. And then we have the Rangers women's game as well, which is a kick-off of 4 p.m. at Broadwood. And I think this is their last game before their international break. And that's against Montrose. They're at home to Montrose as they play their home games at Broadwood. So that gives you the Gers guide. We do have the 2 tickets for the Heart and Hand live show. I know I've been mentioning this for quite some time now. I just sent a note to the communications folks. What I think we'll try and do this week, my suggestion anyway, was that we would put out guess the correct score of the Aberdeen game. Everybody who corrects the correct score, who guesses the correct score, come on Gary, will be put into a random draw generator, and then we'll announce who has won those, and we'll get those tickets transferred to you, because that's coming up. That's basically the end of next week now, so we need to get going on that pretty quickly. I did mention last week that I was trying to get information on the outputs, that you basically the minutes of the CEO fans forum, which happened a couple of weeks back there. I still don't see anything on the Rangers website. I was hoping to get a chance to reach out to the communications folks over there, just to try and get an opportunity to find out when we would be able to get that. I'll do that between now and next week, just to get a wee bit more information, because I'm interested to see what was talked about and see what the next steps are going to be on that. So I'll keep my eyes peeled for that. Also, last week Rangers did announce their inaugural fans advisory board on the Rangers website, and there was an article there on the website giving you a bit of an overview, why it's important, the process that was followed, who was involved in the process, and things like that. I won't read it out, but what I was going to do was just to read out the names here. So the inaugural members of the fan advisory board are Fad Barry, Matt Boyd, Jamie Cook, Craig Hanna, Kelly Johnston, Stuart Langan, I think it is, and Gary Ralston. And they it says here they've been elected for their diverse perspectives and deep commitment to the club. It didn't mention anything more about that, who's performing what role, if there's a particular demographic of the fan base that they're representing or not. But what it does say is that there will be more updates through the next wee while as to exactly what they're doing, what the major things that they're going to be involved in and with for and on behalf of the club, and then we'll take it from there. I don't recognise a lot of the names there. I don't recognise many of the names there, but I'm hoping as we get going a wee bit, that through my representation with NARSA and the NARSA executive, of course, that we'll get an opportunity to chat through anything that they have going on, and hopefully we can support anything that they're doing as much as we possibly can. Finally, on the communications front this week, I did want to just mention, but it's kind of been ongoing actually since the convention. In fact, it's not kind of been ongoing, it has been ongoing since the convention, where I'm very delighted to tell you we now have the Dallas Rangers Supporters Club reintroduced back into NARSA after a bit of a hiatus for a while there. And Stephen Ironside from the Dallas club had approached us actually literally at the convention to say, what's the process, we're interested to get this done. We then exchanged some emails. Things went a bit quiet for a wee while. We were kind of both expecting each other to respond, kind of thing, so the email land can trip you up now and again. And that's exactly what happened. But I'm very, very delighted to tell you that we now officially, formally can welcome the Dallas Rangers Supporters Club back to the NARSA fold. So I asked Stephen just to pop together a wee bit of an overview of who he is, what happened with the club before, what sort of stuff we can expect to see, and that sort of thing. And he was very kind to put that together, and I'm going to read it out here if you don't mind. So a wee bit about Stephen at the beginning, and then more on the club in a wee bit. So I was born and brought up in Dunblane. This is Stephen speaking, not me. In Dunblane, moved to Stirling in my early 20s. My grandfather started taking me to Ibrox when I was around 9 or 10 in the mid-70s, and went every week whenever we could. I bought a season ticket around 1985 and maintained it until moving to Dallas in 1995. As you know, back then the coverage of football here in the US was pretty poor, and the only way of getting the Gers results was in the Dallas Morning News the next day. A couple of years later, I think Setanta started picking up the SPL games, and a mate and I forked out to buy the equipment so that we could see the games. Moving on to 1999, and another diehard arrived in Dallas, Stuart Monroe. We became and are to this day the best of mates, and it was at that time that we heard of NARSA and decided to form the NARSA Rangers Supporters Club, with original 3 members being myself, Stuart and Gilbert Sebastian. From then up until the late 2000s we flourished, and Stuart, as president of the club, did an amazing job. At one point we grew our membership to around 35, with average attendances of 10 to 16 weekly. As was the case with many clubs, when the credit crunch hit and with the arrival of live games online, our members started to diminish. A lot of the members were here with UK companies and had their visas and such pulled during the recession and returned home. It got to a point where it was literally me and Stuart and maybe 1 or 2 others showing up at the pub at 6 a.m. to watch. That was not really a viable arrangement with our host pub financially, and sadly we had to close. We did, however, get together when we could to get enough beers to warrant opening, mainly for Old Firm games and finals, and we would also occasionally gather at one of our houses. Moving on to the present day. In the last 5 or 6 years, I have been travelling throughout the US for business, and it's been a massive crutch knowing that in every major city, before I even land, I know I already have a group of friends and like-minded supporters of our great club. This is one of the driving forces behind getting the Dallas Rangers Supporters Club back in the association with NARSA. More and more Bears are travelling again through work and pleasure, and we have seen quite an upturn in inquiries to our Facebook page regarding meeting up for the game, which in turn we have facilitated. There is nothing compares to meeting new Rangers fans and celebrating a win in our very own Rangers way. We want any Bear travelling to know that if they're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that they have friends already here. I want to tell a small story that I think typifies Rangers and our fans. Although far from Ibrox and Rangers, we still hold deep in our hearts. Cast your mind back to the 25th of May 2003, last day of the season. Either Rangers or them could win the league. Now, we all know what happened that wonderful day, and a certain Mr. Sutton has never recovered and is still greeting to this day. We ended him. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So Dallas Rangers Supporters Club was in full swing and looking forward to the match. It was Memorial Day weekend, and myself and family always went camping that weekend, and we were in Oklahoma. No way was I missing that game, so had planned to drive from Atoka to Dallas, leaving at 3 a.m. to be at the pub for kick-off, watching the game and then returning to the campsite by lunch. Unfortunately, that weekend in Dallas saw a major storm which downed the power to our host club. We tried getting generators and various other methods to screen the game, but this proved fruitless. Now, my house was only a couple of miles from the pub, so we all jumped in our cars and headed to my house. I did not have any means of showing the game, but I dialed my brother Keith in Dunblane, had him put the phone to the front of the TV, put my phone on speaker, and around 15 bears were huddled around my phone listening to commentary. My neighbours had no idea what the hell was going on at 8 a.m. when over a dozen bears in full celebratory mode were dancing and singing up and down my street. I love it. I love it. Recently, it's not finished though. Recently, while attending the convention in Toronto, I was in a group of people talking and was telling this story, and this is his words, folks, not mine. Telling this story when a lad said, "Fuck me, I was visiting Dallas that weekend and was in your house listening with you all." Small world, and even smaller when your fellow bears around the world. Lastly, Gary, I renewed my season ticket a couple of years back and travel to 5 or 6 games a year when circumstances allow. I would like to extend an invitation to any NARSA member travelling, and if they need a ticket and mine is available, please reach out and I will try and accommodate. All the best, and we are the people. What a brilliant story, isn't it? I didn't edit any of it. I just says put some stuff together and I'll just see what's pod worthy, and I just kept the whole thing in because it was absolutely brilliantly written. What a fantastic story, and see the lengths that we go to here to get to see Rangers. It's incredible. That's, we have stories similar to that. I remember traversing a satellite dish from one building to another. We smashed it off the side of one of the buildings because they built a condo building up the road from the old Drum and Monkey, and we had to move the satellite to get the feed because it blocked the feed. And like the amount of stuff that we've done, and I'm sure every NARSA club has a story of some description, and Stephen's story of what he did in terms of driving away from his family at that time in the morning, coming up with an ingenious plan which probably cost them a fortune, folks, and then the opportunity to celebrate. You just can't buy that type of experience with folks, and it's just legendary. And then to recount it, what's that, 20 years later or so? Yeah, exactly 20 years later, and have someone who was actually there experiencing it at the time. Brilliant, absolute gold dust. So that took us a wee bit long today, and I hope finishing on a bit of a high note there has been a wee bit of comfort to the folks still mourning the loss of Nicky, and myself included, of course. And that'll do it for this week, my friends. As always, I'd like to just take this chance to thank you very, very much for taking the time to listen. Please do pass it on to anyone you think might be interested in listening as we continue to try and grow our listenership. Until next week, here's to getting back to doing what we do, and to doing what Philip Clement's teams do, and that's winning games, and no better time than against Aberdeen this Sunday. Until next week, folks, please do take care of yourself, and all the very best, okay? Cheerio.